Caroline just did it. We're so much ahead of everyone.
Alright.
Why am I on your YouTube? Live stream with yourselves. Look at that.
Huh?
Okay, it's working. Yeah, we're done.
No.
Okay, we're gonna mute ourselves.
Someone took the. Nej. Dödade jag i samtalet? Nej. Ja, vi är live. Nej. Okay, guys, you just muted your. Vad är vägen? Där, under. Come on, come closer. Don't be afraid. It's broken. Oh, my stuff, dude. But no one has updated the. Guys, please update in hållbarhetshäng that it's the stream is starting now. How are you guys? We're good. Marcel? Who's logged on to Sweden? Marcel?
Yeah, I think I will now do it. I'll go in the Facebook event front.
Someone updated? I can't see that someone updated.
The other one.
Yeah. Marcel, can you send me the link to the YouTube stream that people are going to, or maybe it's in the event?
Are we getting ready for something in particular, or what's happening?
I'm gonna do a post in the event with the link to this Skype or to the YouTube stream, so that people that aren't in Umeå at your event can also find it. Like, and see that it's an update, not only in the event description. So I'm gonna do an update, and then I'm gonna follow Marcel's lead.
Okay, guys, have you started doing Umeå? Robert, we can't see you we can't hear you. Okay, so we're gonna do this like follows. So
We hardly hear you, Marcel.
we're gonna do this like follows.
It's the
Um,
sound is not great. It's breaking up. Do you have a microphone?
yeah, I'm just putting on the mic. If it's here, maybe see how does it break down? Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna do this like as follows. So maybe let's talk now and explain us what
It's breaking up all the time.
Yolene,
Can do you have like earphones with a microphone that you can try?
he doesn't have a mic.
I can. Do you hear me well? Or
Yes.
okay, good.
Is it working better now?
Talk.
Is it
bit.
better now? Better or worse?
Yeah, it's better.
Awesome, it's working. But then let's just switch over to speakers for the.
Yeah, I can hear them. Yeah.
Why is your computer in Spanish?
So we just have to like tell you what they're saying, and we can switch around with the mic and microphone. Yeah, like I need to give you. Yeah, I'll give you mics when you want to speak. Yes.
Can I try? I think it would be here.
Maybe it's more forward.
So. Is it okay if I repeat this? So, Philip, tell us
Yeah.
when we're starting, what we're doing.
Yeah, we're just gonna try and see if we can figure out how to switch over the speakers. Always technical issues. Like, so we can speak through this mic, but we'll listen to you in the speaker so everyone can hear you.
Oh, sorry.
But, oh no, go there.
Here?
Oh no, don't go there. And Marcel's computer is in Spanish as well, so we have to navigate through this.
Marcel's computer is obviously in Spanish because he's Spanish, so it's a problem.
Just turn on the soundboard.
Oh, they look so happy.
You're gonna try my computer?
Oh, guys. They are inside. I think they're in the generation somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Help? Yeah.
Don't bracket our project.
Exactly. You change your computers because Spanish computers are good enough for you.
Just try. Just record these sounds.
I think it's
Turn, but you think you turn the sound card off.
Because no one gonna yeah. So you can
Diagnose. That way. No more computers.
we can do it with yours.
No, this is you try it. You can try with this one.
Okay, now we hear you again. Can you hear us, please?
Why don't
Okay, guys, can you hear me now?
Maybe they can just switch around with the earplug. Once they do that.
Can you hear me now?
Vi hör er.
Can you hear me now, guys?
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna do this like follows. Maybe you can start with Umel. You can explain what you have been talking, this introduction, and then we're gonna introduce ourselves here in Paris. First one outside with Yolene and whoever else is there. I don't see you. And then we're gonna introduce ourselves, people standing here, which I'm with Caro and me myself. So maybe you can start, Umel, and you can explain us a little how you have introduced this live stream there in the physical event in Umeå. Floor is yours. We can't hear you, Robert. You're muted.
I
Ja, fast vi hör inget. Ja, men hade ni förberett något som ni ville säga? Ni åkte ju till Paris.
På korg. Och alla festival korgar. Ja, det korg är ju en conference of youth som allvar har fått i parlamentet. Så från och med nu är det korg 11 gammal nästan det korg 12. Det är typ som åka på. Det är lite liknande en eller lite alltså en konferens. Det är de flesta anordnar tillsammans med organisationen korg. Men då är det alltså sätta in 20 år.
Hey guys, can you hear us from Umeå?
Yeah, now you're really loud.
Oh, it's working?
Yeah, that's much better.
So we can mute that one and just go
Awesome.
from here.
Perfect.
I will just switch computers.
Yeah, see.
Okay, Umeå, can you hear us?
Mute the mic on the push and also take away that camera.
Yeah,
Whatever you saw.
It was working that. I think it's into.
Gesundheit.
Okay, but I guess we should start then.
Yeah, let's
Yes.
start. For those who are watching online, you can post your questions at the hashtag PushCop21.
You need to be
And
closer to the mic.
for those watching from home, you can post your questions at PushCop21, hashtag PushCop21 on Twitter, or you can post them in the Facebook event as well. We're going to answer from them. And the people in email, you can also post questions later, but maybe I think it's better to start first with introducing ourselves. So maybe we can start from email, and maybe Lean and Robert, that you've been organizing this event there in email, you can present yourself, and then we can go with Yolene and the people outside in Paris, and then we can end up presenting ourselves here in COP21. Just briefly, a couple of minutes each. You can go
Okay.
ahead, email.
Hi, I'm Lynn, and this is Robert. We're the ones organizing in Umeå. Happy to be here.
Okay, so we'll introduce ourselves. Guys, all the Facebook. My name is Jolene. I'm part of Push Sweden, and right now I'm on the outside of the negotiations. We're doing fun stuff, and yeah, I don't know what to say else. You wanna? Okay, you go first.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Sandro. I'm here with Jolene and a bunch of other people from Sweden. And yeah, we're here at the Climate Action Zone in Paris and doing some fun stuff.
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me. My name is Daniela. I'm also part of Push Sweden, and I'm here with all these nice people doing fun stuff. I'm outside of the negotiations. Just having a great time in Paris.
So over to you guys inside.
Thanks. So here we're inside COP21 at Le Bousquet, however you pronounce that. I'm not that good at French yet. So here we have Caro.
Hi everyone, my name is Caroline, and yeah, happy to be here to talk to you about the latest updates from COP.
Yeah, my name is Philip. I'm also happy, and I'm here. It's good.
And my name is Marcel, and we're here tracking as much as we can the negotiations because everything is closed basically, and writing and doing videos and interviews for our blog. So I really suggest you follow the blog. So maybe we can start now and open it to questions. If you have any questions from the outside, or if you have any questions from email, or the people listening, if you have any questions, you can post them in the Facebook event, or you can also post them at Twitter, hashtag PushCop21. So anyone has any question we can talk about?
And otherwise, if you don't have any questions, we'll just start asking ourselves things.
Then I'm going to start by asking the outside team a question of if you can just give us a brief update on what you are doing, because we are also very curious, because we don't really see you guys since we're on different sides of the walls here.
About they're asking us if we can give them an update about the outside, like what we're doing. So yeah, what are we doing?
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, so okay, so today on the December the 12th, there is going to be an action, red line action, and today we have been to a brief about what's actually going to happen, and also a training to see how to handle different situations, etc. So that's what we do, and we have been yesterday to the Activism Hub. That is a creative space for people to create banners and stuff like that, and it's really, really cool to see things developing for like big banners, and we have been building. Like these guys have been building awesome like what's it called? Oil towers and wind turbines. While I've been sitting by my computer and working. Boring. But yeah, we have like, what are we doing? Yeah, we're planning for different actions and different fun stuff. And today we met with a journalist, a picture journalist, that is going to kind of follow us for some stuff. Not really clear, but maybe clear. Yeah, some stuff which we cannot tell you everything about, but
All right, was that a wrap on your? Okay, because we've gotten two questions on Facebook. Well, actually, one. Can we get a walkthrough of what is going on, what is happening, and where are we in this process? Onto the inside, then. So that's for us, guys.
Yeah, that's for us. I mean, I can start, and you guys can fill me in.
Yeah.
So we're at the beginning of week 2 of the negotiations. That means that the diplomats, or the sort of professional negotiators that negotiate on behalf of our governments, have completed their work, and they have now handed over the text to ministers. That also means that the work of the ADP, the ad hoc working group on the Durban platform, has also finalized, and we have sort of moved into the more sort of decision-making process, like everything actually now needs to be decided. What I guess we should add here is that one important thing to remember is that this Paris Agreement that we're all talking about is actually only one component. It's obviously the most important component, but it's one component of many that is being negotiated here. So the Paris Agreement is the agreement that's going to come into force at 2020, right? So, but we're not at 2020 yet. So we're also negotiating what's going to happen before 2020 under the so-called work stream 2. And then we're also negotiating long-term finance and other various sort of capacity building mechanisms and means of implementation and stuff. But of course, the most maybe important and interesting thing is this Paris Agreement. And I guess what we can say is that we are moving forward. It's going very, very slow. Last week did not take down the text to state which was desirable for ministers to take over. It still has a lot of buckets, a lot of very various options that are quite far from each other, and it's a very complex text, basically. So they did a job, but they didn't do a good enough job, one can say. We still find the sort of hard issues still remain unsolved. They are going to probably be remaining unsolved until the very, very last few hours here. That's what people expect. And yeah, also the negotiations have now been negotiated into very specific articles under the agreement, into being negotiated more theme-wise. And the president of the COP have decided to divide these themes sort of into how easy or difficult they are to deal with, so to speak. So it's like a new more cross-cutting way of negotiating, which everyone seems to agree that this is a good way to do it, and maybe we should have already done this a bit earlier to sort of try and get a better grasp of what is most important, what is most pressing, and how do we need to move forward. And yeah, I mean, I guess the two biggest sort of issues are the same as has always been, sort of, which is the one on differentiation, basically who should do what, and which is then also related to the finance issue, which is basically who should pay for this. That's a very simplified way of describing it, of course, but that's how it is many times communicated, and that's yeah. And yeah, I guess in addition to that, we can say that we have seen some progress in areas where we maybe did not expect it. We see a lot of support from many countries to get a mentioning of 1.5 degrees in the text. However, we got a little bit of a back push on this today, as we figured out that this will not be mentioned as the goal. It will not replace the 2-degree goal, but it will probably be mentioned as a recognition that something we should work towards, which is of course much weaker, because we have a few countries who are still not willing to set 1.5 degrees as the goal, even if more than 100 countries already support this. And then on the, yeah, I mean, there are very many details that we can go into, but I guess that's a very overarching sort of picture of how it's going. I don't know if Marcel and Philip want to add something to that.
Well, we can definitely say that there's a completely different setting to the negotiations right now. There are a lot harder to follow because of the bilaterals and because of them splitting it up into smaller and smaller groups all the time, and it's only closed room with a few ministers or different types of bilateral meetings that occurs between high level negotiators. So the only time we have to follow it is if we know negotiators and speak to them and kind of get details from them, or if we go to the daily stock take, where we have one representative right now that is about to start, where it's called the Paris Committee. So every day at 7 they go through what has happened in the different groups every day. So that's kind of what our job is now, is to kind of try and find out what is going on and try and pressure where we can. That is why Caroline is frenetically writing when she's not in the stream to finish a debate article that's supposed to be submitted like now. For us to capture this moment of pushing that we have. Yeah, results, something more?
And I think another dimension that we can add to the actual situation of the negotiations is the velocity, the speed that the negotiations are going to. It feels a little bit like the negotiations have been like dragging and losing a little bit of time throughout the year, and now they're speeding up to reach an agreement during five days almost. Like, we started this Paris COP21 with a lot of different options and a lot of different variants of the text, and the ADP basically they did a great job cutting it down, but it's still not enough to have something like really easy to handle. So now we have the ministers running and doing a lot of work in a very few time, and I think from my personal perspective this will cut down a lot of participation by countries that otherwise in a more extended negotiation process will have their voices heard more. So what we're seeing now here is that this deal is going to be probably drawn and drafted by the biggest political actors in the world, and it's not going to be as inclusive as we would like it to be. Partly because we're breaking down the sessions in very small spin-off groups, and the small countries' delegations, they cannot really cover all these different negotiations going on. So it's basically not as inclusive as it should be.
Yeah, I think that maybe sums up where we are in this process. Do we have any questions from the Umeå gang? Yay!
Which countries are opposing the 1.5 degree limit?
Can I?
Yeah.
So that is, from what we know, and this is what we know. There's a lot of rumors going on. There's a lot of information that gets to you that you have to filter. But from what we can understand of what's going on, Saudi Arabia is one of the countries that are actively blocking it. So there's a difference between actively blocking it and passively blocking it. So they're actively trying to do things to oppose it, whilst India is not very too keen on having 1.5, but they're not actively blocking it. And there are several more countries that are not actively for it. So that you have this whole scale of what you think of an issue. Like you have between someone really pushing for it and someone really pushing against it. But then you have a lot in between where people kind of leaning one way or the other. And well, the majority of the countries are leaning towards mentioning 1.5 as a target. But since there are so much blockage for it, like rough blockage from amongst others, Saudi Arabia, is probably not going to be as strong as the majority wants.
Maybe I can add to that as well. I mean, we shouldn't fool ourselves into looking at only what the degree target is going to be in this agreement. There is one way in putting a degree target, and then there is one way to sort of really put strong language on how that should actually be reached or be implemented. And what we're seeing now is that actually some countries very unexpectedly have been in favor of this 1.5 degree target. But what they're doing then is that they're sort of playing a game where they actively decide to maybe support this target and sort of as a trade-off then giving weaker language on means of implementation, how it should actually be done. And so this is of course something that we have to avoid happening, because if we, I mean, a 1.5 degree target stated in the beginning of the agreement is worth nothing if we don't have a clear roadmap of how to get there. So in that sense, we should basically not be fooled of many countries supporting 1.5 if they also don't support strong language in how to get there. And this is something we see actually playing out from quite a few industrialized countries these last few days as a sort of a very, I think at least, very played out and thought through game in how to make the deal in favor for themselves. And not for the countries who sort of are in most need of keeping the temperature degree below 1.5 degrees.
Yeah, I think it's a made up strategy from these countries, and they definitely succeeding. They're getting a lot of media attention, a lot of social attention in this. I mean, we can call it sterile debate between going to 2 degrees on 1.5. It does matter just targeting to 2 or 1.5, but the way how we get there, it's an important thing, and we should definitely regard into that and don't fall into the trap of just thinking 1.5 and 2 because it's the easier debate to have. We should really think of where the financing is coming from, where the efforts and mitigation is coming from, who's going to pay the responsibility, and how we're going to treat with the most vulnerable countries. I think these are the key questions in the agreement, and not actually talking about 1.5 or 2 degrees.
We had a question regarding these implementations of reaching a 1.5. How are the discussions going around the 1.5? How are we going to make that happen?
So the science is pretty clear. We need full decarbonization of the full world until 2030 for 1.5. And that is probably not in the minds of the people sitting there negotiating. There are some that want to like link the language. So right now that group is kind of exploring the language around it. So they kind of some countries to have a much more scientifically linked wordings around it and say like, hey, or I was trying to get in to be like, hey. We want to link the 1.5 target to the latest science and so on. So there's not really a clear way of getting there in this document because this is a policy document. Of course, they take out implementation, but way with this agreement.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. We can add that, as you might have heard beforehand, the mitigation pledges that have been put forward in front of Paris, or as in the run-up to Paris, they are absolutely not enough. So they're going to take us actually on a more towards a 3-degree world, 2.7 or 2-3 degree world. So what the agreement here needs to capture and very, very, very clearly outline is how we're going to scale up these ambitions, right? So it really needs to sort of outline how these mitigation pledges are going to be reviewed, how we're going to ensure that every review is increasing ambition, and how also how much, basically, and both on a global and national level. And what we're seeing now is that countries are sort of being positive towards having this global stock take to sort of have a look at, okay, what's going on in the world, but they're actually opposing many countries that that we should be able to review each and individual country, which is of course completely necessary. So this is something that we need to push really, really hard for, that they cannot back out of this, because if we don't have this legally binding mechanism for reviewing and upscaling, then we won't make it, pretty much.
Yeah, and as it is now, and like taking back from what Philip said, if we want 1.5, we need decarbonization by 2030. If we want 2 degrees, we need decarbonization by 2050. And as it is now in the agreement, we have achieving zero global GHG emissions by 2060 to 2080. So this is definitely not what we want if we want to achieve this long-term goal of 2 or 1.5 degrees. Another dimension that we can take in here is the differentiation of the efforts to cut until these levels. Because definitely there's, if we regard into the historic responsibility of the different countries, what we've been emitting throughout history, and the different capabilities of the countries, we will see that not all the countries have to do the same efforts. And as we've seen with the pledges so far, those countries which are in the developing countries, those are actually fulfilling their fair shares if we regard their historical responsibilities. But they are only doing so if they get the financial support by the developed countries. So financing is also a key issue to ensure a 1.5 or a 2 degree target. And definitely there's a gap between the ambition that we have that's leading us to a 3 degree. There's a gap between this 3 degree and the 2 degree ambition. And this ambition gap, it should be filled by an increased ambition by the developed countries. And this, we should know that the ambitions and the efforts should be differentiated. And the ones failing to have enough ambition to tackle the challenge are the developed countries. More questions?
I think it froze. We're ready to have another minute. We got some more questions.
How is the Swedish delegation doing, and what are they saying that they're going to do?
Yeah, sure.
So, I mean, actually, Sweden is gonna play a very important role the next coming days, because Åsa Romson is actually gonna facilitate one of these theme groups. Very important one on adaptation and loss and damage. This is the blog post for Supermiljöbloggen I'm currently writing, which should have been uploaded an hour ago. Yeah, so they're going to play a very important role here, and they have so far been semi-transparent towards us, how they're working. I mean, they are inviting us regularly for meetings and briefing us on how the negotiations are going, and sort of what their thoughts are on what's going on. But they are a bit more reluctant in sharing their actual positions, obviously, because they don't have their own positions. They have EU's positions. So, I mean, what we're doing is that we are constantly sort of forcing them or pushing them to be more brave towards the EU. One example that we, together with the Sami, or sort of we aligned ourselves with the Sami to really push for this mentioning of human rights and indigenous peoples' rights in Article 2, which is the purpose of the agreement. And this is something where Sweden didn't have a vocal standpoint before, but where they have now sort of taken that vocal standpoint in the EU after this pressure. So it's they are quite sensitive to what the I mean, Sweden and also the EU are quite how can you say, they care very much about their reputation and as sort of the good guys in the negotiations. So they are showing will to like listen to us and how we should and how they should work. But at the same time, we get signals from within that they are not as vocal as they could be. So I think we still need to sort of pressure them to stand up for the things they say that they should. So, for example, now in this group that Åsa is going to facilitate, obviously she needs to have an objective role there as a facilitator. So in that sense, she cannot do much. But what she can do, of course, is that she can make sure that all voices are being heard. And in this adaptation and loss and damage theme, of course, the voice of the most vulnerable countries is the most important. And they cannot be run over by the bigger economies who try to dominate this discussion. So here she's going to play a very, very important role. And it's very important that we keep reminding her that she needs to play this role. So that's really one thing that we encourage everyone to participate in, like sort of tweeting her and maybe, you know, making some noise around this, that Sweden is having this role and that she needs to stay very focused and ensure that we move forward here.
Want to say something, Philip?
No, I think like Caroline said, it's not always that Sweden and the EU is utilizing their full capacity. They have much more to give. And that's what we keep on bugging them with every time we meet them. Like, you should do this. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, here there's a question, and that's also a question I had for you guys. Like, how do you think people in Sweden could support in this task of pressing the Swedish delegation to take stronger points? So one thing we can do is what Kara said, tweeting, and we what we can do is basically speaking out and letting the people know that we don't agree with the points that we're taking now, and we want to go farther than that. We want to be more ambitious and we want to be more just. So tweeting is one way, demonstrating in the outside is one way, and I think that is very, very that is regarded from the outside. That makes an impact here in the inside, and we see, for instance, the Global Climate March. It's broadcasted in the screens of the venues, so people know and people get the message in here. Whether they take conscious of it, it really depends on the country. So we've seen, but for what we've seen from Sweden, they really care about what's being said in the media, for instance. So if you have access to any kind of local or national media, also write in there and just give them your impressions, your opinions, and try to influence from there. I think the Swedish delegation is definitely very sensitive to the public opinion that we have in Sweden.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just as a final point on this, I mean, I think many people are currently very disappointed with the EU. I mean, they're not being as progressive as they should. Many people and organizations and developing countries are counting on EU to take up more space and be more vocal and to push more forward. And as up till now, they have been very pretty much on all the issues. They have been pretty sort of silent and let other players speak up more. And I mean, we've seen this especially in this talk about this Article 2 on human rights, for example, where we would definitely expect EU to be vocal, but it hasn't happened so much yet. Also on this issue on financing and loss and damage, basically there is currently discussions between the United States and the small island states, and the EU is being very passive in moving this discussion forward, as far as we have picked up. So yeah, that's, and we don't know, of course, if this is sort of a very laid out, thought through game that they're playing, and then in the end they're going to sort of reveal their positions and start pushing. But at the same time, I mean, we're already coming towards the end, so one would expect that they would have started doing that already.
Yeah, now maybe we can drive some questions towards the outside and ask them, like, what do you think you can do from the outside in Paris to influence what's going on in the negotiations? Tell us a little bit what's your role in there. How do you feel the power, guys?
Do you hear us? Can you hear us? Okay, awesome. Yeah, how do we feel around? Like, as you said, Marcel, it's really encouraging to hear that it's actually a play, like they are playing the big 29th of November climate marches on video in the conference building. That's really like encouraging. I think that from the outside, having like making people in Paris see, like open their eyes for these issues, like just raising our voices and making ourselves heard. That's really important. I think also like the big stuff is happening all the time. Seriously, it's like demonstrations, it's workshops, it's like things are happening constantly. A major thing is that we are focusing on networking. So it's not only like doing actions, but also networking, like globally, to create a stronger civil society, to create a stronger movement. And that's one of the most important things for this, because as we all know, and you were talking about the struggles inside of COP, and we know that we're not going to get a deal that is enough. It's not going to be a deal that is as good as we want and we feel we need to actually sustain our planet and our home. But like in order to keep on working with these issues, to keep on pressuring our politicians, we are doing much of networking, much of like just like supporting each other and engaging each other in these issues. And I think that the D12 action, the red line action, which is like where we mark our red lines, that's going to be really, really strong. And it's going to be really, really amazing, not only to be a part of it, but for the world to see that we are really, guys, can you maybe, that we are a movement that is growing stronger, and we will make our voices heard. And regardless to what the politicians and the companies say, we are going to make our voices heard. From all parts. Yeah, maybe you guys want to say something.
You want to say something? Okay. Yeah, so as Jolene said, it's amazing to see so many people just being here and supporting the movement. And both at the Archivist Hub where we were yesterday, and today we're at the Action Zone. There are so many different people, and it's been amazing just to see all different ages. And we had people from Estonia, Russia, we had Australia, like all over the world, and they're all gathering in Paris to show that this is not good enough. We need to do more. Do you want to say something, Sandra?
Yeah, I can.
What's your impression of Paris so far?
Yeah, no, I can only support what has been said. It's like super inspiring what is going on here in those different locations outside, like Climate Action Zone, the Archivist Hub, where so many people are, trying to fight and for a stronger deal, and knowing that it will not be enough, and sort of push it already further beyond Paris. That we need to do more, and I think yeah, it's super cool to see that people from all around the world gathering here, and yeah, try to make a difference. And yeah, you can also support that just via social media, as has been said before. So I think it's super inspiring just to be here and be part of this. So yeah, give it back to Chile.
We're gonna have to leave this place like in a couple of minutes. So if there's any more, either we can just like go upstairs and we'll be back, or yeah. So give us more questions now because we might not be able to.
I'm guessing you're getting ready for the red lines. What red lines will you be protesting for or discussing?
That's one of the really interesting things with the red line actions, because we are not, there's no like ready-made red lines. We are all ourselves deciding what our red lines are. So I mean, a red line can be like, yeah, we can't extract 80% of all the fossil fuel reserves, or 90%. We can't go over 1.5 degrees. We can't, like, all these things. And also maybe like talking about like the police and what red lines there are there, and ecological limits and so forth. So that's like we are all defining our own red lines. And I don't know, maybe the question is also like what our red lines are. Maybe we'll do like a cliffhanger and we'll be back in 3 minutes. Yeah, Daniela has things you want to share. We will be back in a couple of minutes because we need to leave this area.
Then I'll pass the question over to the other guys regarding your red lines. What would you be pushing for?
All right, Marcel.
So I want to think that I'm here to fight, to defend certain red lines. My red lines in here in this fight are the respect to human rights, the respect to humanity rights, and the respect to Mother Earth rights. So these are my red lines. If I don't see in this agreement that we're respecting all our human rights, that we can secure a livable environment for everyone, that we can secure a shelter, food, water supply, health, education, gender equality, intergenerational equity, respect to the culture, respect to the heritage that we have. If we cannot see all these basic human rights deserved, that's a red line to me. Another red line to me is the humanity red line. So that there's some humanity rights that we should consider here. We have a right to live all in justice. We have to respect our values. And here is the justice in the democracy, in the transparency. And these are red lines to me. And these are especially seen in the process of the negotiation. We see these red lines cross during the process of negotiations on and on and on and on. So these humanity rights, of these values that they have to be respected, they're also a red line to me. And I want to protect this freedom, justice, fairness, transparency, public implication in all this process here. And I have to say that I'm kind of failing on this, because we really see these red lines being crossed from many times. And the third red line, and I think the most important, is the Mother Earth rights. So here there's a huge red line to me, because if we don't respect Mother Earth red lines, if we don't respect the ecosystem red lines, we're not respecting the humanity red lines, and we're not respecting human rights. So first of all, we should respect the ecosystem we live in because it is supporting us. And as we see the agreement now, there's no mention whatsoever to the Mother Earth rights. There's a completely disconnection to nature in most of the articles that we're seeing in the agreement, and I think that's a failure of this agreement. We should be conscious that we're doing this for the climate, and we're doing this for us, but the thing most important here that we have to respect is the ecosystem we're living in and the house that is sustaining us. So if we don't respect the place where we're living, if we don't respect the ecosystem that we have around us, we're not respecting ourselves. So that's the major red line that I would like to defend here. And again, I think I'm failing. And this agreement is crossing this red line to me.
Yeah, I don't think I can add anything more stronger than what Marcel just said. I think we definitely share our red lines here, and I just had a sort of a mini breakdown today together with Jennifer, our other delegate here, when I guess during the first week it was quite easy to sort of distance yourself from this because everything is taking place on such a technical level and such such a detailed and as Marcel mentioned, like inhumane level here, that it is actually very easy to distance yourself from what it's actually about, because you get into this process and you follow what's happening and you try to influence it, but you don't really feel it. But this week, it's on a completely new political level. You can really feel it. It's in the atmosphere. Like all the decision makers are here. This is now it's going to happen, and that's when you realize that we are not heading towards where we need to head. I mean, we knew this when we came here. We knew that Paris wouldn't deliver what we have to do. We have to keep pushing and working really, really hard after Paris. But it still comes as a reality check, and this is why it is so important, of course, that we do this red line exercise, and that we really, as humanity, as people together, as communities, really raise our voice on this matter and saying like what is okay and what is not, because yes, there is a lot of goodwill in international politics, like to I think in many areas much more than what we had. There is a much more greater understanding of what needs to be done, but still other interests in many areas are still being put first instead of doing what we really have to do. So this is of course where we need to raise our voice, and I can only echo Marcel on what my red lines are there as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's hard to add much after these two fantastic people have been speaking, but I'd say for me the biggest red lines are definitely the destruction of the humans that are living, the capability for a sustainable life for humans living today and for humans that are not yet born. I mean, the failure to build a society and a world that is based on love instead of extraction of materials is one of our biggest failures and one of my absolute red lines. And I mean, we have crossed what should be anyone's sensible red line for such a long time ago. We crossed it like 40 years ago. So what we're doing now is trying to like get everything together and push it back across that red line, and that's why we're here fighting, and that's why we're all doing what we do. I guess that's why most of us in some way are part of push, to kind of push our society back over the red line, push us to a society where we can sustain life, where we can sustain humans, and where we can sustain Mother Earth in a way that will work. Yeah. Yes, that's it.
I guess maybe to not make this discussion too depressive.
No.
Maybe we have to.
I have to add. It's very hopeful. Like we just cracked down on what's bad, but I mean, things are looking bright. Like in the negotiations, things might look bad sometimes, but a lot of the people that are used negotiators, they're actually saying that it's a good sign that the negotiations has not broken down yet. Absolutely, there are countries blocking a lot of things, but there are also a lot of will to compromise. There is, and you know, the biggest thing is that what we see on the outside, what we see from the 400 mayors that were here, they're all committed and like they're all invested in transforming their cities to renewable energy, to sustainable life. And they're doing it regardless of what happens here, like regardless of what kind of agreement that we get out of here. We are already on our way with transforming the world to a sustainable society. So like it's like today I was speaking with a friend and said that it's like we have the balls rolling down the hill. If we get this agreement, we can structure it and they will roll in the direction that we want to. But they are already rolling towards the future that we will build together. We do it with or without an agreement. So no doom and gloom. On to you, Caroline.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, and just to add on to that what's happening here in Paris is still more than the actual outcome. I mean, the agreement is really, 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 really important in creating this roadmap of where we need to go, and it's absolutely crucial to ensure financing for vulnerable countries, for example, countries that are already experiencing damages from climate change. We cannot neglect this. I mean, we can still take mitigation actions without a legally binding agreement, but I dare to say that no industrialized country will pay for climate change damages unless they are forced to. So here, of course, we really, really need a strong agreement. So that's obviously why we're here. We cannot stop believing in this process now, because if we do that, we fail those who are most vulnerable. We have to fight for this. But then on the other hand, as Philip said, I mean, even if the agreement doesn't deliver on all the parts that we expect or want to, which it won't, there are so many other amazing things happening here. And I mean, just to share one sunshine story among many, is that because push that has been for indigenous rights during this COP, for example, we heard yesterday that a lot of national party delegations have now chosen to take in indigenous people representatives into their delegations, which has not been before. So, I mean, we really see Sweden, amongst others, they have now promised to have Sami representatives next year. So this is, of course, a huge step forward, and we should never neglect these small victories, because in the big picture, they are not small. They are fundamental. So this is, yeah, it's still extremely important what we do, no matter what the outcome will be.
Yeah, I think we got some applause there. So let's see if we have any more questions. Marcel?
We don't have in Twitter, and we don't have in a Facebook event.
Okay.
Jag har ingen aning.
Jag har frågor, men jag vet inte.
Ja, den då?
Alltså bara, först har de mig?
Nej.
Alltså jag har varit så länder säger så här, länder säger så här, men jag vet inte vilka är det. Alltså jag vet mer så att okej, vilka länder, vad hade de förutfattade meningar av agerat innan de åkte? Var vissa länder var positivt överraskande i det här ställningstagande, eller var vissa länder varit så här, alltså typ att de var mer negativa? Det är jättestort. Ja, och vilka länder har varit såhär, wow, shit, det här är ju jättebra arbete, fan vad dåligt det nu var, liksom, men alltså, lite av deras analys av situationen, inte deras egna åsikter, men mer en analys över förhandlingen som sker. Vilka länder visar fram för dem? Så EU bara står tillbaka, men vilka är aktörerna och vad är det liksom?
Jag tar en fråga i taget. which countries do you find are the ones who take most responsibility that we can be very proud of, and which would you wish we could see more from?
Yeah, before we reply to this one, maybe the outside team want to say some final remarks, because I think they're going to need to leave their venue. So if we can hear a final few words from them before we answer this.
Absolutely. Maybe we can hear Jolene's red line.
Yeah, maybe we can always say our red lines before we leave.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
Like that. I need to send.
I know you said your red lines. It's hard to just put down one red line. I mean, we're all, for me, it has always been like we're stepping on other people's lives with what we're doing, every choice we're making, every second of the day of our lives. That's like to not interfere with other people's ability to have a decent life. Somewhere there, that's my red line. I'm doing all of this for the sake of people that have not the choice or to protect themselves from what we are doing. I think that's, and I am like doing this together with all of you guys. That's amazing, and I see us building this movement and doing it awesome, and we're gonna make this happen.
Yeah, very short. It's very difficult to wrap this up or define this red line in such a short time. But I would say 1.5 is my red line, because that means we have to keep more than 80% of fossil fuels reserves in the ground. And it means a transition towards a carbon economy, transforming not only the energy system but also the economy. So yeah, I think that's my red line. With that, I think we have to leave here. Give it back to
Thank you guys, you're awesome. Keep on your great work and fighting for this, for our future, for our time. Okay, love.
Bye.
Thank you very much, guys. So do you switch? Yeah, we're good. So we had 2 questions on Facebook, and Umio, you also had a question.
Which countries are most supportive?
And much
that we should cheer.
Yeah, I can take this one. So already at the beginning of COP last week, on Monday, there was this climate vulnerability forum, and this is something definitely to cheer for. So this is an alliance of 40 plus most vulnerable countries in the world. So these guys come together, these countries came together, and they put forward a totally ambitious pledge. So they wanted to, for their stake, I mean, for their survival, for their right to existence, they put forward a pledge where they wanted to have a whole plan. They had a roadmap for that to keep emissions to a level that supports their life where they are, that supports the limit of 1.5 degrees. So for that, and they wanted to have 100% renewables by 2025. So that's much earlier than anyone else.
Sorry, which country? Which country?
Climate Vulnerability Forum, it's called. It's 40 plus countries. So it's an alliance of different countries. And we can name a few if you want, like Philippines, Bangladesh, the Maldives, Costa Rica, and countries like this, especially like low-lying countries that will be much affected by floods, by hurricanes, by typhoons, by sea level rise. So all this league of countries, 40 plus countries, they put forward this pledge, an amazing pledge. And I think also a very important point that they raise here is that they're going to do it for their sake. If they see inaction by by the developed countries. So they're going to take initiative in there, and they're going to make all these without counting on the financing from the developed countries, because they cannot wait anymore. They're already droning, so they need to take action now, regardless if they have help or not. So I think this is like such an attitude that we should support, to take this bold initiative to go forward and fight for your survival, regardless of what the others are doing. And we should blame for that the developed countries. They're not supporting to this. They're just standing watching at how the others are droning, how the others are making efforts to lift up and avoid the droning, and not doing anything or regarding those people fighting for their lives. We should really be cheering those people fighting for their lives and putting these super ambitious pledges up, because they're gonna drone and we cannot watch them droning, just clapping at them. We should really support those super ambitious pledges by the most vulnerable countries.
Romeo, did you have another question, or can we do the Facebook ones?
We were thinking about which countries would we like to see have been the most disappointing, have left the most disappointing pledges.
You mean like the worst ones, or the people, or the countries that have the most capacity to actually do something but are not doing it? I guess that's maybe
both, but of course the ones we would like to see more of, like what would we would expect more from some countries. What would there be?
Well, obvious ones that comes to mind is Japan, Canada, Australia, Korea, and maybe the U.S.
Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia, of course.
And all
I thought that's implied.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. Canada is doing better.
Yeah. Today they released. No, yesterday, Sunday they released new pledges, new INDCs. That is much more ambitious, thanks to their new government. But Australia has not lived up to that promise yet.
Yeah.
So that is happening. We have a few Facebook questions.
We have one in the event by Seth.
Can I do this one for you?
Yeah.
So we have one is that Saudi Arabia is one of the most important countries to push. Could their interest in solar power be stimulated to invest in this? They have a lot of sun and air solar plants in, and technology is rapidly becoming less expensive. Could they be more progressive in this area? I mean, from what we've heard earlier, there's a lot of will for Saudi Arabia. I mean, they've been speaking some about solar power, and it was Saudi Arabia's energy minister that said, "I see energy raining down from the sky." They are not very keen on doing anything about it. They're not very keen on investment, or in that case, switching to another energy source. They're just like, hey, we're not going to do this. We don't want an agreement. We don't want nothing to do with it. They want energy neutral agreement. They want maybe oil to be mentioned as a part of the future solution, and so on and so on. So they're not really showing anything.
Yeah, we have another question on the Facebook event. It's by Seth. And he's asking, how have you experienced the role of the fossil fuel industry towards the delegation of our governments? Caro.
Maybe you should repeat the question.
Yeah, so the question was how we have experienced the role of fossil fuel industries in relation to. I mean, they are definitely here. And we saw just the other day, 2 days ago, that the fossil fuel industry from the Middle East were hosting a side event called something like the role of oil and gas technologies in combating climate change. So they are definitely here. They are trying to push for their sake, to sort of push for coal, no, sorry, oil and gas, and maybe mainly gas, to be part of the solution. And I also saw the European, what is it called? European Environment Foundation, something like this, hosting a press conference today on the possible market for something called new coal. I don't even know what this is, but this it's ridiculous. So this clearly shows that they are here. My impression so far is that it's maybe a little bit less than what it used to be. I think it has been a lot of course, there has been a lot of pressures from civil society to kick these big polluters out, and people are generally more aware now that they have had this lobby role and still have this lobby role, and it is becoming more and more sort of unacceptable, and civil society are speaking up in this not being okay, but it's obvious that they are still here and doing what they can to slow down the process.
They're also sponsoring the COP. I think one of the biggest sponsors for COP is doing fracking in North America.
Yeah, I mean, we don't see really, or at least I haven't seen in the list this year compared to other years, haven't seen sort of pure fossil fuel extraction companies as sponsors, but we see companies who have like part of their business models as which is extracting fossil fuels. So they are like maybe an infrastructure company in general, and then they still have interest in extracting fossil fuels, and they're still sponsoring the COP. So yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
Yay!
It's just a blast.
Yeah, I mean, we also see them here. You don't see them with their name, but you see a couple of organizations here presenting solutions like the CCS or this liquefied gas, and they have their stands inside COP. But where you can see them clearly, it's in these expositions and events going throughout Paris. And you see all these events and this conference sponsored by Total, sponsored by Spanish polluters, sponsored by Exxon.
Is there any Spanish polluters?
Yeah. There's also big ones. All South America is Spanish polluters.
Wow.
Do we have more questions?
Bumio.
Otherwise, I actually need to go soon, so maybe we should also start rounding up.
Hello, guys. I got one question regarding Åsa Romson and her position as the leader in the negotiations. How did she receive that position? Kind of, is she elected or the vote, or how is she applying for it personally, or how does it work? Kind of.
No. So to my understanding,
I think it's a finger.
Yeah.
You go.
So to my understanding, it's the French presidency that is like, hey, what's up? You're good in these areas. You should have this position. Now she's facilitating loss and damage as well, which makes sense because it was Anna Lindstedt and Lena Ek who kind of made the Warsaw mechanism on loss and damage. It was made in 2013. So Sweden has had a lot of history around this area. So it makes sense for Åsa and Sweden to have it. But it's definitely top down. It's pointing at Åsa.
Yeah, that's definitely the case, I think. And I mean, she's not going to do this by herself. Sweden is going to do it together with Bolivia. So there are always two chairs or two facilitators, and the most commonly one from developing, one from developed countries, or global north, global south, depending on how you want to divide it. And I mean, in this case, sort of the analysis that you can make from this is that, as Philip mentioned, since Sweden has the history of being progressive on this matter, but also sort of maybe you can say also being famous for being quite neutral and being quite good in being objective and sort of could also be a reason. Whereas Bolivia then on the other hand are very famous for being very vocal and very sort of speaking up and have very strong opinions. So yeah, one can only guess that this has been sort of an idea from the COP presidency to have this combination of chairs for them to complement each other and the dynamic. But yeah, that's just my own analysis. I don't know if it's true.
No, I think it makes perfect sense. I think that's about as much time as we have.
Are you still there? Yeah. I was just thinking about energy again, considering James Hansen and those scientists who say that we are gonna have to go for nuclear. It's like, yeah, it's a definite in many scientists' perspectives. So, is there any discussions on nuclear energy in general?
No, not really.
Can you repeat the question?
So, is there any discussions around nuclear energy if we have to move towards or from it or something like that? I'd say that there is not. Is that a correct understanding of the question?
Yeah, I mean, just interesting to hear about if there has been any talks about the energy policies.
No, not really. I mean, nuclear energy is so peripheral if you look at the whole energy usage of the whole world, and it's so technically advanced. And now, what needs to happen is the transition of to renewable energy in the countries that use a lot of coal and that kind of stuff. So it's not a big part of the discussion. Definitely not. They are not discussing it. It's whenever you speak about energy, it's much more about fossil or renewables.
Yeah, I mean, there might be some side events going on this matter, but I haven't even seen it in the official daily schedule. So I think Philip has the correct analysis here. It's actually too little of a share of the global energy mix today, and it's too expensive for most countries to implement it, that it's actually just not interesting. It's only interesting for a few countries, really.
Yeah, nothing to add there. I heard talking about it in the corridors with some people, but nothing very official. So if there's anything else now, otherwise I think it was an amazing time to share with you guys and a very constructive conversation, I hope. And I really wish you could learn something from this. And we actually did here.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time. And we wish you the best.
Goodbye.
Good luck and push for change.
Yeah, and you too. And please keep getting engaged and do what you can from home, like tweeting, writing to media, demonstrating on the 12th again, last day of COP, to make sure people get the last word. So, yeah, thanks, guys.
And remember to follow us if you want to get the latest updates and very, very high quality analysis by these two guys here. And follow us in the blog, push to COP.
Yeah.
pushtocop.wordpress.com. You can also follow us in hashtag UU. No. I know it was gonna happen. Hashtag push COP21 in Twitter, and then you can also follow us in the push Facebook list, push Facebook page, and the web page.
And Instagram.
Instagram.
That's our latest contribution.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we just had the latest update. Just cooked one minute ago. We have a selfie with Jennifer and the Venezuelan negotiator. That's gonna be up.
Yeah. So if you want to follow someone cool on Twitter, follow Claudia Talerno. She's the Venezuelan one. Yeah. If you can spell it, you can follow her. And yeah, well, thank you all for joining. Let's do this together. Bye-bye, guys.
See you.
så är du yngre än mig. Ups.